Hey boys and girls, today we're going to talk about being a scientist. Did you know that you can be a scientist? That's right. Whether you're a boy or a girl, an adult or a child, you can be a scientist. You might be thinking, Miss Givens, I'm not a scientist. What comes in your head when you think of a scientist? I'll give you a minute to think. What are you picturing when you think of a scientist? Is it maybe something like this? Somebody with a lab coat and some testing tubes? This is certainly a scientist, but you don't have to have a lab coat and some testing tubes, and one time one of my little friends called these some potions. You don't have to have that to be a scientist. Here's what I mean. Let's read this and find out what a scientist does, and then I'm going to give you an easy challenge to see if you can be a scientist, okay? This is called What Do Scientists Do? And it's by Deanna Jump. Let's see. They ask a question. That's all. They ask a question. Do you ever ask questions like, what will happen if it rains? Okay, so if you've ever asked a question like that about something that you wondered, why does my swing move by itself sometimes outside even when I'm not out there? Why does my dog bark? If you've asked those kind of questions, then you're a scientist. Let's see what else they do. They form a hypothesis. Now that's a big word. Can you say hypothesis? Hypothesis. Hypothesis. So a hypothesis is where they kind of answer what they think the answer is to their question. So if my question was, what will happen if it rains? My hypothesis, what I think would happen is my driveway would look wet. That's what I think would happen if it rains. So my hypothesis is I think my driveway would look wet if it rained. Let's see what they do next. They test their hypothesis. So if my question was what will happen if it rains, and my hypothesis is I think my driveway will get wet, the only way to test that to see if I was right is to wait for it to rain. And then when it rains, I need to look at my driveway. When I go look at the driveway, I will see if my hypothesis was the same as what really happened or different. If my hypothesis was that the driveway will get wet if it rains, and then I look at my driveway and it's wet, then my hypothesis was the same. They record their observations. Now that sounds really big, but all that means is they might write down or draw what happened. So if I'm recording what I saw after it rained, I might record a picture of my driveway being wet. I recorded my observations. And last, they draw conclusions. They come to a conclusion. That means that they kind of say a sentence, or they say what they learned. I learned that if it rains, my driveway will get wet. That's my conclusion. It's that simple, guys. I'm a scientist. You can be a scientist. Now, after this video is over, I put an extra little challenge underneath it for your adult at home to help you read through to see how you can be a scientist. It's an experiment. And if you take any pictures or draw what happened, you can send them to me. If it's still a little confusing of how to post things on Schoology, your parent or adult can just email your pictures to me. I'd love to see a picture of you being a scientist or something that you drew after you did the experiment. Have fun!